Namaskar. Today we have the last lecture in this series, and we start with disposition of soul, or what we call as bhav of the soul. Our knowledge, perception, vitality, thoughts, feelings and emotions define disposition of the soul at any instant, So the state of the soul is a combination of all these things, the knowledge of the soul, perception of the soul, vitality, thoughts, feeling and emotions. All these attributes together determine the state of the soul. The disposition of the soul is determined by karma. So all these things are karma dependent. There are three ways in which karma exercises their effect. Number one, fruition or rise of karma. Number two, suppression of karma. And number three, the destruction or elimination of karma. So all these three processes of karma determine the state of the soul in their own right. And based on these three, there are 5 kinds of dispositions of the soul. Number one, disposition of the soul by fruition or rise of karma. This is known as Udayic Bhav. The state of the soul which is determined when the karma are rising. Then disposition of the soul by suppression of deluding karma. Point to note here is that it is only the deluding karma which can be suppressed, and no other karma is suppressed. So when the deluding karma is suppressed, then the arising state is what is meant here. Disposition of the soul by annihilation of psychical karma. And again, please note that it is only the psychical karmas which can be annihilated, which can be whose annihilation determine the disposition of the soul, the annihilation of psychical karma. Then the fourth one is disposition of the soul by partial suppression of deluding karma and partial annihilation of psychical karma. So two things are happening here. Deluding karma is being suppressed and the psychical karma are partially eliminated. And this state is known as a cryogamic bhav. Generally this kind of bhav or a state of soul exists. Then disposition of the soul by natural manifestation. There are some natural manifestation in the soul and they determine its state. It's known as a parinamic bhav. There are some faculties of the soul that do not yield to karmic forces. So some of the faculties are karma independent, and they determine the state of the soul. These faculties are responsible for generation of natural manifestation of the soul. So in all, there are 5 types of bhav or disposition of the soul possible. And we have only one of them at a time, It could be any one of them depending upon the state of karma. And Bhav is very important, that determines our thought. So bhav can be seen as a kind of a source of thought, or mother of thought. So the thoughts depend upon what type of bhav or what type of disposition we have. So accordingly, the thoughts will take place. It could be good or bad depending upon good or bad bhav. Now with this background, we now study spiritual development of the soul. And this development takes place in stages. And 14 stages have been defined, right from the lowest state to the highest state, which takes place on liberation. So the entire range of state of soul is divided in 14 stages. So the spiritual journey to the stage of liberation is divided in 14 stages, as I told you, and this is known as a gunasthan. It's a technical term, gunasthan. Each stage shows particular state of development or purity of the soul, depending upon the karmic load of deluding karma. Now here, when we are defining the state of the soul or the stages of development, we are referring only to the deluding karma and no other karma. This is an important point to note. All these stages are defined with respect to deluding karma only. We recollect that deluding karma has two subdivisions, belief deluding and conduct deluding. The belief deluding prevents right belief in the soul, as we know, and obstructs samyakatva. This is a technical term and a very important term in Jain philosophy, samyaktva. Samyaktva means, you have equanimity of your thought, equanimity of conduct, and so on. So it refers to a definite kind of state of the soul. So if belief deluding karma are present, then you don't have the state of samyaktva. Then conduct deluding prevents the right conduct of the soul. If these karmas are present, the soul does not have the right kind of conduct. Right conduct does not develop till right belief is developed. This is important. A soul cannot have a right conduct unless the soul has right belief or the belief deluding karmas have been eliminated. Then only the right belief takes place. So the first priority is to develop a right belief by eliminating the belief deluding karma. So if one wants to proceed on the path of liberation, the first thing to be done is to have a right belief, and for that the belief deluding karma has to be eliminated. Once the deluding karmas are eliminated, both types of deluding karma, the shield of other psychical karmas are soon destroyed and the soul attains the stage of Keval Gyan or Arihant or enlightened state. So we call it Keval Gyan or Arihant. Arihant again and Keval Gyan, these two are technical terms and very important, and you should remember them. Now we talk of the 14 stages of spiritual development. The first stage is that of delusion. In this state, what happens? The soul has wrong belief. Wrong belief means, it considers himself to be body. It does not believe in 7 fundamental truths and 9 existences. The soul is supposed to be in ignorant state due to presence of belief deluding karma. it's ignorant in a particular respect, is ignorant in respect of its spiritual state or a spiritual condition of the soul, or the spiritual progress. So it is ignorant in that respect. Otherwise, in worldly respect, worldly aspect, the soul is not ignorant. The soul is all knowing, is knowing everything except the self. And this state, the soul is in this state right from the infinite time, all along, because we know that the soul has been existing with beginningless time. So since then, the soul is in the state of delusion. The soul is not realizing the self. And still now, we all people, me and you who are listening to this lecture, they are all in the state of delusion. Most of us are in the state of delusion. In the sense that, although we talk about soul, we know about soul, but we do not realize the soul, That's the main thing. So, assume that till now, right from beginningless time, that is for infinite times for which the soul has been existing, it has been in a state of delusion mostly. In most cases, there can be exceptions. The individual can still be a good social being. As I told you, ignorant doesn't mean that he is not a good social being. A person can be a good social being and possess all human values, but she is spiritually ignorant. That's all. This is the meaning here by delusion. The next stage of the soul is sasadhan, downfall. The soul in this stage is only when falling from higher spiritual stages. This is a transitory state. You will appreciate this when we go little further. Similarly, the third one is samyak mithyat drashti, that is mix of right and wrong belief. This is kind of stage. This is also a transitory state, and the soul is in this stage while falling from higher spiritual stages. So these 2 points will be clear when we go little further. Then the fourth stage is avirata samyaktva, what is called as woeless right belief. The soul has right belief in this state, so that soul knows that I am soul and I am not body, and believes in all those 7 fundamental truths and 9 existences. But the soul is not undertaking vows. We talked of vows earlier, anuvratas, or mahavratas. The soul is not following any of those vows, but it has right belief. That means that belief deluding karma has been eliminated. The soul in this stage has right belief and has knowledge of truth and reality. Soul believes in the 7 fundamental truths, as I said, and 9 existences, and spiritual progress becomes the aim of life. Now the body comforts are forgotten at this state, but he is still not observing the vows necessary for further spiritual progress. Further progress can be made only when your conduct becomes like that you observe all the vows. This stage is reached when the belief deluding karma and the anantanumabandhi patient karmas are subdued. This happens in 3 ways. Number 1, upsam samyaktva, which means when these karmas are suppressed. So when the psychic karmas have been suppressed, when the deluding karmas has been suppressed, you have this kind of state. Or kshayopsam samyaktva, when the deluding karmas are partly suppressed and partly eliminated. And kshaik samyaktva, when these karmas are eliminated, that is when the deluding karmas are eliminated. So, depending upon these three kinds of conditions as to what happens to deluding karma, we can have three kinds of this fourth stage. The soul can fall down the stage in the first two cases. If the soul is having upsam samyaktva and kshayap samyaktva, it is possible that the soul will fall down from stage 4 to stage 1 or going through the stage 3 and 2. I told you earlier that the stage 2 and stage 3 are transient stages, and they happen only when the soul is falling down from higher stage to lower stage. That means if the soul is falling from the fourth stage to first stage, it will pass through the stage 3 and stage 2. The soul can fall down the stage in the first two cases, but shall rise up in the ladder in the third case. That is, if the samyaktva is of kshayic type, when the karmas are eliminated, then there is no fall down. It will not fall from stage 4 to stage 1. It will now rise up. It will go to 5, 6 and so on. This stage is beginning of advancement of the goal of liberation and is an important landmark in the life of the soul. So, this is the beginning. Stage 4 is the beginning of journey to liberation. And this is a very important event in the life of a soul. It is an important landmark. If this stage is reached in the life of some soul, then it is a big event, because now the soul has realized the actual goal, the ultimate goal, as now all its efforts are directed towards death and not towards the worldly pleasures. Though not yet observing the woes in the fourth stage, the soul does not have attachment to sense gratification. This is what happens in the fourth stage. He is compassionate, is calm, is fearful of a mundane existence. He is non-violent and free from excessive patience. So, all these conditions satisfied, they are satisfied in the fourth stage. Then the next stage, when the soul rises up, and why this progress is made, that we discussed in the last class in path to emancipation, because of the conduct of the soul, that the soul is progressing. So, in the fifth stage, the soul now exercises a good degree of self-control, that is, it observes the vows in the form of vows, but perfect control is still lacking. There are 11 pratimas or vows prescribed for this stage, which I have not talked of. There are 11 special kind of vows, which a person observes in this stage. The passions are reduced and the soul does not indulge in hinsa. So, when you are observing these vows, your conduct is now better, and the soul, your passions are reduced, and the soul is not indulging in any kind of violence. The next stage, sixth one, is pramat virat, is known as a self-restraint without full care. That means the soul is now exercising self-restraint, is applying restraints on conduct, various type of attachment and attractions, The soul now follows all the rules of conduct, but the perfect right conduct is still not attained due to balance of passions. The passions are reduced, but they are still present, and they do not allow the soul to observe full conduct. The desires and impulses or the involvement to worldly objects still persist, So, the soul is engaged in worldly affairs still at this stage. This is the stage of an ascetic. This stage is reached only by ascetics, monks, and the householder can go only up to stage 5. Then number 7, that number figure 7 is missing here, but it is 7. Apramat virat, that is self-restraint with full care, Now the monk is very careful in observing the self-restraint measures. The soul of an ascetic in this stage is absorbed in the spiritual contemplation. This stage may last for an antar muhurt, less than 48 minutes, and the soul falls down to stage 6. So, soul is in a state where full care is taken in observation of all the necessary rules of conduct, but the soul is able to do it only for few minutes, less than 48 minutes, and it falls down to stage 6, where full care is not possible. So, a monk, is normally going from stage 6 to stage 7 and back to stage 6 and so on. So, overall he spends some time in stage 6 and some time in stage 7, So, this is the position of an ascetic, a monk, Further progress for the ascetic is very rare. Normally, the monks are not able to go beyond stage 7. Normally, in rare cases, it happens, and if that happens, then they can go up to the stage of liberation. There are two ways of making further progress. Number, upasam shreni, that is, if the karmas, deluding karmas were suppressed. So, in the case when patient karmas have been suppressed, this is one stage, one way, and ksapak shreni, when the patient karmas have been eliminated. What has been done in the past? Either the karmas were suppressed or they were eliminated. So, depending upon these two, the further stages are determined. The 8th stage is apur karana, unprecedented state of the soul, The soul attains this spiritual stage never reached before. This is in a very high spiritual state. This is the stage of pure contemplation, and the soul acquires a unique psychic force which causes fast shedding of the remaining karmas, So, because of the power of meditation and contemplation in this stage, the soul is engrossed in meditation, So, then the soul has very high power, and with that, it can destroy, it can eliminate the existing karma, it can shed off the karmas, because that is the real aim. You have to shed off all the karmas in order that you are liberated. The next higher stage is anivrtikaran, means forceful renouncing. The purity of the soul is increased and the thoughts work like fire to destroy the karma. Now the karmas are destroyed at very fast rate, Just like fire burns a wood, that way the karmas are burnt away. The soul has now conquered over all the desires for enjoyment and is engaged in meditation on the nature of the self, So, soul is now aware and realizes its own nature, and not worried about the body and the body pleasures. Then number 10, sukshma samparaya, means state of mild greed, We know that there are 4 kinds of patience, anger, deceit, ego and greed. So, the greed is the last patient to be eliminated, The anger is deleted first, and then deceit, and then ego, and last one to be eliminated is greed. So, in this stage 10, there is only mild greed, Other 3 patients have been eliminated. At this stage, there remains only a weak shield of knowledge obscuring, perception obscuring, and vitality of obstructing karma. there is a slight trace of greed, the soul has a subtle desire for moksha. So, no, in fact, no kind of desire should be there in the soul, but the desire for moksha is there at this stage number 10, And all other psychical karmas like knowledge obscuring, perception obscuring, and vitality obstructing karmas have also been eliminated to a great extent. From this stage, the soul may advance either to stage 11 or to stage 12. So, from stage 10, the soul proceeds to number 11 or number 12. The former happens in the case of upsamak shreni, If the karmas were earlier suppressed, then the soul will now pass on from stage 10 to stage 11. And if the karmas were eliminated, kshapak shreni, then the soul will pass on from stage 10 to directly to stage 12, and it will not pass through stage 11. The stage 11 is upshant moh, that is a state of suppressed greed. This stage is reached by the souls of upsamak shreni, those who suppressed the deluding karma. The patients rise again and soul falls down to lower stages because the deluding karmas were not eliminated, they were only suppressed. So at this stage, these karmas rise again and the soul falls down the stages. The number 12, Kshina Moha, called the state of no greed. Now the deluding karma at this stage have been eliminated. All patience have been eliminated. In this stage, all deluding karmas have been destroyed and the thoughts are pure, because the thoughts are impure because of deluding karma. So now, in the absence of deluding karma, the thoughts are pure. Soul now destroys the remaining psychical karma. Soul remains in this stage for a time of antarmurti, few minutes, and rises to the next stage 13. In fact, all these stages from stage 8 to stage 13, which we are going to talk now, they are transient stages. They exist only for few minutes. So the journey from stage 8 to stage 13 takes place in less than 1 hour time, or maybe 1 to 2 hours, that's all. All along our journey, right from infinite time, we have been in stage 1, remember, and from stage 9 to stage 13, takes place very quickly in few minutes. Then the next stage is known as Sayog Kevali, or dynamic omniscient state. At this stage, all psychical karmas have been destroyed. That means knowledge obscuring, perception obscuring, vitality obstructing, and deluding. Once the deluding karmas are eliminated, other 3 psychical karmas are automatically eliminated at once, very fast, So one has to eliminate only the deluding karma, that's all. The other karmas get eliminated automatically. And the soul becomes arihant, or omniscient, or Paramatma. So on the elimination of all psychical karmas, the soul becomes omniscient, all-knowing, all-perceiving, all-powerful, and we call as arihant, in Jain terminology, or Paramatma, is God. It's a God-like state, The biological karma are still in balance because the soul still has a body, and therefore the biological karma are in balance, and the activities of body, mind, and speech continue to take place. Although the soul has become omniscient, and because it has a body, all these activities take place. Tirthankara in this stage teaches religion to all living beings. So I just now mentioned the term omniscient, all knowing, all perceiving, But here also there can be two different kinds of states. One we call as Arihant and another we call Tirthankar. A Tirthankar is also Arihant, but it has additional capability or additional power that the Tirthankar teaches religion to all living beings, So the religion is founded by a Tirthankar and not by a simple omniscient. Then the 14th stage is Ayog Kevali or static omniscient state, Now once a soul attains the state of omniscience, the remaining life, whatever life is in balance, is the soul is in that state of omniscience, and the soul is teaching religion, preaching, doing all that. At the end of this life, when the life is going to end, that is the age determining karma are going to be exhausted. At that time, the last stage, what is known as Ayog Kevali, is reached. And this stage remains only for few minutes. That's all, or few seconds rather. And this is the pre-stage of the final liberation. After this stage, the soul is liberated. The activities of body, mind and speech are brought to halt in a stone-like posture. How the soul leaves the body? For that, the body is brought in a stone-like state. It becomes a rock. All the balanced biological karma are destroyed. Then now, whatever biological karmas were left are being destroyed now, And what are the biological karmas? Vedaniya karma, you remember, Nam karma, that is the form-making karma, age-determining karma, and status-determining karma. These four biological karmas. So these karmas also are now destroyed in this stage, at the last stage, And it takes place, the process is very fast, and the soul is ready to leave the body. When all the karmas are eliminated, then only the soul can leave the body. So it's now ready to leave the body because all the karmas are destroyed in this state. Immediately after this stage, soul becomes a siddha or liberated or what we call as emancipated. And it migrates immediately to Siddha Shila, a place in the cosmos which you are aware of. Now, what are the qualities of a liberated soul or a siddha? Because now there is no karma and there is no comeback, In the absence of karma, the soul does not take birth again. There is no rebirth now. The soul will always remain in that liberated state. And it will enjoy 8 qualities. What are these 8 qualities? There is a perfect knowledge, infinite knowledge. There is a perfect perception, infinite perception. That is infinite jnana and infinite darshan. Complete loss of obstruction. There is no obstruction. It has 100% vitality. Right belief, of course. Extreme subtlety. Its non-corporeal form. Interpretation. This means, tools, liberated souls can live in the same place. There is interpretation. Complete loss of mass, there is no materiality at all, and infinite spiritual power. So this is the state of a liberated soul. Infinite number of souls have become siddha so far, and the process shall continue. So every time, somewhere in the universe, some or the other low soul is being liberated. This process will continue. There are infinite number of souls who are in the liberated state, and they all live in the Siddha Shila. Only Bhavya Jivas can have liberation abhavya jivas cannot. This is one point which I did not mention earlier. It so happens that all souls are not in a position to liberate themselves. There are some souls which will never have right belief, whatever life they have, and therefore they cannot proceed to liberation. This diagram shows how the transition between the states take place. It's a very interesting diagram. Look at this, on the vertical scale, we have drawn the stages starting at the bottom number, first stage, then second, third, fourth, and so on, right up to 14, at the top. Then how the transition takes place? In fact, the soul from state 1 goes to stage 4 directly. It does not pass through the stage 2 and 3 as I told you earlier, So the soul passes from stage 1 to stage 4 directly, on having a right belief. Then from 4 to 5, 5 to 6, 6 to 7, 7 to 8 to 9 to 10, 11, 12. You can see that vertical ladder. It goes one by one up the ladder. But what happens is that there can be a fall down from the higher stages to lower stages. For example, this soul who has gone from stage 10 to stage 11, I told you if this soul goes to stage 11, it will definitely fall back, and you see the falling loop on the right hand side. It can fall back and can fall back to any one of the states. Possibilities there, and the various paths are shown here. You can study that. So it can fall down from stage 11 to stage 9 or 8, 7, 6, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. Even it can go down to stage 1. This is possible. Similarly, from stage 10, the soul can fall back to stage 8 and so on. From 7 to 6, and this is continuously taking place. So I told you the monk is in two states, state 6 and state 7. From 6 to 7, 7 to 6, 6 to 7. This loop goes on, and so on. And if it is falling from stage 4, it can pass through stage 3, or it can go directly to stage 2. And if it is going to stage 3, then it will pass to stage 2 and next to 1, So from stage 4, it has to go to stage 1 in any way, either 3 and 2, through both of them, or only through stage 2, or only through stage 3. All possibilities are there. So this is very interesting transition picture, which takes place in the case of soul. You please study it in detail at your leisure time. At the end, I would like to introduce to you Namokar mantra. Every religion has some mantra, particularly in Indian tradition. So in the case of Jainism, the mantra is Namokar mantra. And when we chant this Namokar mantra, when we recite this Namokar mantra, we are in fact paying our reverence, paying our respect to all the enlightened souls. So the mantra goes like this: Namo Arihantanam, Namo Siddhanam, Namo Airiyanam, Namo Vajjayanam, Namo Loe Savva Sahunam, Eso Pancha Namokaro Savva Pava Parnasano, Mangalanam Cha Savvesim, Padmam Havai Mangalam. The first 5 lines is the proper mantra, What it says: Namo Arihantanam. I bow to Lord Arihant. That is, those souls who reached the Arihant state. I respect all of them. I bow to all of them. Namo Siddhanam. I bow to all liberated souls. Now, one thing which you must notice here is this, although liberated soul is in a higher stage than a omniscient soul, But here, when we pay our respect, there is a reverse order. We first pay respect to omniscient, Arihant, then to liberated soul, Siddha, or the emancipated soul. The reverse order is taken here mainly because we know these liberated souls only because omniscient has told us. Otherwise, we have no means to know about the liberated souls. So, the omniscient Arihanta is our teacher, He preaches us, he teaches us, he tells us the truth. And he shows us the path to liberation, So, we respect the teacher first. So, Arihanta is our teacher. So, therefore, this is the order. Then, Airiyana means all acharyas. We pay our respect to all acharyas. Then, to respect to all Upadhyaya. Upadhyaya is teacher monk. And to all monks, all ascetics. And the last two lines, Eso Pancha Namokaro Savapapanasana. It means that, this mantra is such that if you recite, it will destroy all your sins, all your inauspicious karmas. Mangalanam cha savyasi padamahayalam. And if you recite this, everyone, whosoever recites, will have happiness in life, will have auspicious activity in life, and it does good to everyone whosoever is reciting this mantra. So, coming to the end of this lecture, I like to sum up what we have done in this series, So, summing up, so we recollect that we have studied the following aspects of Jain philosophy. We studied about substances, then soul, space and time, matter, biology, cosmology, philosophy of multiple aspects, doctrine of karma, fundamental truths and existences, epistemology, mind and psychology, ethics, virtues and conduct, environment and ecology, yoga and meditation, and emancipation of soul. We studied all these aspects in this series, And what I have done here is only to cover the salient points. It's not possible to go into the details of all these topics in a series of lecture like this. You'll find more details in my book, as I told you in the very first lecture. So those of you who are interested in knowing more about these topics, please read my book, The Scientific Explorations of Jain Doctrines, And number two, I had not referred to the original text anywhere in my lecture, This does not mean that, I had not referred them. All these lectures are based on the original text, the original scriptures, But I had not made any reference to them to have a simple deliberations or to avoid difficult terminology. So, but those who are really sincere about the study of Jain philosophy, they should read the original texts. And these texts have been cited in my book, and you can find otherwise also. Nowadays, information is available on Google and many other websites, What I would like and I expect you to do is to have a further study if you are interested, and also have a research activity if possible, So you must continue your study of Jain philosophy. And there is a large scope of application of these principles, If you look at this list, there are certain titles which I have given in red. These are the topics, where there is immense possibility of further study and research, of applied kind, So I hope you undertake one of these, if not all, in your future time or in your coming times, And I now hope that this exposition has made some change in your life, If not that, at least some change in your viewpoint regarding life, Jain philosophy, in fact, is not a religion, it's a way of life. How do you live your life, That's important. So it is given the name religion, okay, but in fact it is a way of life and good way of life, A way of life which will give you happiness, which will give you peace of mind and will allow you to live in harmony with nature, So you respect every constituent of nature, not only your own society and human beings, but all forms of life, And you do not have a narrow-minded thinking, you have open-minded views, and that will in fact make you happy and will bring peace in your life. Okay, wishing you all well and thank you.